Since last year, I have been covering the Zodiac entities, with 2 remaining. I wanted to talk about them in separate videos about making music and backgrounds in my game dev journey. But a lot of things have changed since then. Changed to a point that I now understand that these designs actually have nothing to do with Stema and their universe. So before this year ends, I want to tell you the entire and final stories of the Zodiac entities. These 12 designs would surface a few years ago. Each were named after a zodiac sign. However, they still can be represented by a science topic. It's just that the topics were rather niche, like the transient luminous event Spirigo, referencing events that occur above lightning strikes. Or like Arano, which represented the Carnot cycle, describing the work of a theoretically ideal engine. Actually, the Carnot cycle isn't really that niche, as it's taught pretty regularly for chemists and engineers. Where similarly, Cantry references petri dishes, which are containers commonly used in microbiology. Suppose the term phosphine is pretty niche, which were what phosphes were based off of, but they could be experienced pretty easily by applying pressure on the eye because phosphines are about any part of the visual system being triggered without the use of light. Regardless of the loose zodiac references, astrology is not considered to be a scientific discipline, as rather astronomy is considered to be more objective. But when it comes to constellations, groups of stars, well, the important takeaway was how these depictions are only applicable to us. Stars that appear in a line, in reality, could be in multiple different depths and sizes. Only we get to see this pattern, whilst in any other perspective, there's no real connection. Much like how Capricorn's Klein bottle, which is a one-sided surface like the Mobius strip, isn't really related to Bernipius brinicle, which is formed by cold brine freezing seawater as it falls to the sea floor. It's part of human nature to try to seek patterns, but one has to realize that it gets to a certain point where it's really subjective, and not the absolute truth that applies to everyone. Some of these entities are big and imposing, like Hydrarius, the non-aging Nidarian Hydra, or Strarus, the engineered kinetic art sculpture that's seen in Teo Jan's Strandbests. But the last 2 entities that I'll discuss today are rather small. And as you can tell already, not every entity falls into a specific branch of science, like the biological chimera Chimleo, who's made up of cells that have differing genotypes. Or the material science shaped memory alloy that is sagittinal, that can revert to its previous state when warmed up. Now, if you forced me to spit out a story, I would have mentioned that someone figured out how these zodiac symbols were actually alien species that visited humanity throughout history. But in pursuit of finding some meaning between all of these aliens, that person would invite all of them to the world all at once. For they wanted to find some sense amongst these coincidences, to see some pattern within the thin air. The next zodiac entity is loosely based off of Libra. According to the horoscope, if you're a Libra, you will have a nice day today. Now, the concept behind this was cymatics, the study of visualizing vibrations. There's multiple ways to do this, but one popular method is to use sand or grains and scatter them across a vibrating surface. If that surface is vibrating at a constant tone, the grains will bounce off where the vibrations are the harshest, leaving behind grains that remain around the notes with relative stability, revealing a resonance pattern. There's a beautiful music video that shows this off, as well as other methods of cymatics, so I'll have that video linked down in the description. So here is Cybra. The powder-like shell should also vibrate and kind of function like subwoofers, so that they could change the shape of their sandy core and change expressions. But they're usually close until provoked. But at the end of the day, these entities were all different, as they adapted independently in different environments. Any connection made between them were merely just illusions. Which brings us to our final zodiac that's loosely based off of Gemini. According to the horoscope, if you are a Gemini, you will have a nice day today. And this one is based off of the Gestalt principles. Gestalt is how something is more than the sum of their parts. These principles give an insight into how our brain organizes our perception, such as the law of proximity, grouping close things together, and law of closure, that allows us to understand a shape that's not fully described. A specific concept this entity would feature is concept of multi-stability, which many illusions use, as the brain can interpret an image one way when applying these Gestalt laws in an area, but then interpret it in a different way when focusing elsewhere. thus having multiple stable perceptions. So here is Gestini. The face is specifically referencing the rapid duck illusion, but the rest of the body is mostly about using law of closure and a little bit of law of symmetry. But honestly, many of Gestalt's principles, like the law of continuity, like expecting a shape to continue behind something, is kind of always being applied to any design. After calming down our alien visitors, the one property that united them became clear. They all had different stats back in their homes, but they were hardened and or morphed when contacting our air. For you see, dear viewer, we were the common denominator. There was no grand connection between these Zodiac entities, for it was our pursuit and perception that grouped them proximally. I want to make it clear that the Zodiac entities are now fully non-canon to the Stema universe, Stema being the STEM-based creature collector that I've been working on. The largest reason why is because I'm reusing some of these designs and concepts in different designs now, and I'm much happier with them over these designs I made back in 2022, which was before I even decided to make Stema a game. I mean, that's the thing with designs. It's about repetition. As the gravity of the Stema project grows and as more of it becomes realized, I'm noticing how I'm making a lot of changes to some previous statements I made on this channel. But one thing that didn't change was how I kept saying that these Zodiac entities are not part of Stema. As of now, I'm not planning on using these guys in Stema. And by now, they're just fully old designs I just drew back in the day. Guess there's a reason why beta designs aren't regularly published, as some people would latch onto those over the final, more thought out product. But I covered these old designs so that I had more time to work on the actual Stema project. There's a lot going on, but I'll still be doing what I can. So follow the channel if you're interested. In fact, I have a separate playlist with my videos that cover each of these Zodiac entities in greater depth. And there's also another playlist just for my Stema project. If I'm quiet about Stema, please understand that I just don't want to show off everything before even implementing them. And I've shown off a lot of Stemas already, so I'm making more. So with all that, the Zodiac chapter is done. Again, I promise they would no longer make sense in the world of Stema, not even as references, and I'm much happier with a new set that's not based off of the Zodiac I prepared for the game. Please do not try to convince me otherwise. I got plans I'm much more comfortable with, and even though the Zodiac entities are fully non-canon, they still remain as a set of designs I drew back in 2022. Thank you for watching, and thank you to my Patreon members for directly supporting me, but you can always support me for free by liking and sharing the video. But whether you're a Gemini, or Libra, or Sagittarius, or Leo, or Taurus, or Aquarius, or Pisces, or Cancer, or Scorpio, or Capricorn, or Aries, or Virgo, or not, remember that the common denominator in your lives is you. So take care of yourself. Please enjoy the holiday season, and I wish you will have a better and healthier New Year.